took a lot of convincing. Every single day I would tell the Taker I wanted to start that match on top of the cell. And every single day he would tell me that wasn't happening. And then finally, like before we took our break to go, a couple days off, I asked him one more time. He just looked at me and he goes, "Jack, why are you so intent on killing yourself?" And like I had all this emotion, and I told him, because you and I, we got this legacy, we got this history, like we don't even have an angle going into this match. I can't do what Sean did. I can't live up to what you guys did. I can't live up to what we've done before. I said, but if we can start the match in a way nobody's ever done before, come up with things no one's ever seen before. And then I talked about the importance, like what if there's that element of magic in the air? And I swear to you, that's the one thing I think that's sometimes missing from today's product, is like guys are so intent on putting stuff together that they don't let the great moments breathe, and you can't script it, you can't predict it. It's either there or it's not. And I was like, if we have that in the air, we can create something no one's ever done before, do things no one's ever thought of before, like maybe we can make people think we're having a great match, even if we're not. And he said he'll think about it. And then I sold him on the idea. That was the big bump, choke slam. Tears a little bit of the mesh away. He's going to stuff me down that hole. So the last thing I said to the Undertaker before my music hit was, it may take 5 or 6 choke slams before that mesh starts to give. And by God, it didn't turn out that way, right? So I joked like, this is legit. Like after I get thrown off that massive structure, we got all these surreal instances taking place, The cell actually starts rising towards the heavens so they can put the gurney to carry me out of there. And the only people who know we may have something up our sleeve, we may, I say may because I didn't know if I could get up after that, but I told Undertaker, I told Mr. McMahon, I said, if I've got the strength, I'm gonna roll off that gurney, I'm gonna start climbing that son of a bitch again. And I go back, I get in goosebumps now talking about it. I mean, when you guys show it, there's that one thing, I get off that gurney, and I start climbing up that cell, and man, the energy in Pittsburgh was so alive. I said, if you could have bottled it at the source, you could have lit up that city for a week. And then you see Undertaker's face, and he just looks up, and people realize they're going up again. Like, they're going up again. And the one thing I wish I could have done was exchange with the Undertaker. I just didn't have it in me. And again, I wish I could have gotten up in the air, but if I had, this is something he and I talked about. It's like, man, if I'd gone up in the air for that choke slam, when I went through, it wasn't any rabbit hole. It was just me going right through like a hot knife through butter. I would have landed high on my neck or maybe on my head. I honestly don't think I ever would have wrestled again, But as it turned out, it wasn't particularly a great situation. There's actually twist ties laying on the ground with me. And, this is where, I think the fortitude of wrestlers comes through and the willingness to do whatever it takes. Because now if something like that were to happen, we would stop a match immediately, right? Learned a lot about head injuries. But at that time, in 1998, we didn't stop matches. We bought time. And that's when that ring filled up with people. Terry Funk was the first person in there. And I went home. I wrestled the next night after the cell, a very brief match. Mr. McMahon sent me home for 4 days where I tried to put the pieces of that match together in my mind because I remembered almost nothing. And I remember seeing it like 100 different times. I'm watching over and over, and I know on some level there are words exchanged between The Undertaker and Terry Funk, but they're just said so casually that I don't put any mind into trying to imagine the words that could have been spoken. And it was like, then Terry leans over, he like touches my face, it looks kind of awkward. He turns back to The Undertaker, he says something else, and at that point, The Undertaker chokeslammed Terry Funk, and in the process, Terry's shoes came off his feet. And I have no idea any of this has transpired as I've been unconscious for like 42 seconds. So that when I finally did roll over onto my stomach, like I look up, the only thing I could think of was, where did those shoes come from? Look at those shoes. And then the Undertaker, you see me, like you go through replays, and when they come back, I'm standing, right? And Jim Ross makes a call. He goes, he's got to be the toughest son of a bitch I've ever seen in this environment. Ooh. As he realized in the moment that I was stealing Stone Cold's gimmick, or that maybe I was living Stone Cold's gimmick, and he had to qualify it. And I'm like, what type of environment are you talking about? Like, I'm the toughest son of a bitch you've ever seen in this environment? Made me a little bit angry. You know, that was the primary cause. Like, I had to have that seed in my mind. That's what I used when I turned on Steve Austin, was the idea that in some small way, don't tell him this because he'll get hot about it. Because, you know, guys have great pride. I thought that Jim Ross was qualifying what he said at my expense. Jim had the two best calls I'd ever heard, but in that case, in this environment, still had an issue with it. You know, still have a little issue with it. But it was then, when he said that, Undertaker then hits me, and my body, you probably saw it on the thing, my body just folded, right? And he realized this is a lost cause. And he had, remember that mane of dark red hair, and he just, like, he leaned over, and I'll never forget as long as I live what he said. He just leaned over and he said, hey there, fella. Are you okay, pal? That looked like a humdinger of a landing. No, he doesn't sound like that. He said, he just said, go home. And I'll never know what it was. It seemed like a pretty logical request, right? Any other night, the entirety of my career, I probably would have been, okay, go home. And that one night, it's crazy to sound like there was something out there, like bigger than the both of us, almost like mystical, that made me think for that one night that I was tougher and stronger and braver than I'd ever been before, and I know for a fact tougher and stronger and braver than I'd ever be again.